All right, two Canadian paddlers are going up the Pacific coast this summer, and it's called the Rookie Rowers Expedition. Their names are Ashlie Ferguson and Laura Macready, and they are joining me now for a conversation about the halfway point of their journey in July 10th. Thank you both, Laura and Ashlie, for being here today. Thanks so much.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
All right. So I've been following you on social media, as other people have been. A lot of people now, you're doing updates when you have enough service to do that about this paddle, which is from Bella, British Columbia. You started, is that right? Or tell me where you started this.
We actually started from home, which is like Comox. So it's like a ways back from Bella, actually.
Wow.
So,
okay. Yeah.
So we've been on the ocean for like 48 days now.
Yeah, we're
roughly
getting close to the 50-day mark.
Yeah. So from Comox, so it's down by where we live in Cumberland. So right from home, we drove the boats to the ocean and got in them, and then started from there. So yeah.
Okay. I got it. All right. And then you built these boats. I mean, there's so many unique things that are going on with this trip, and I think we should just start at the beginning. Like in the winter in January, you ordered these rowboats from Angus Rowboats, and it was like a kit that you essentially assembled and put together these boats. Let's just start from there, and why did you do that? And tell me, walk me through from start to where you are now, basically.
That's such a good question, Joe. We're always spitballing ideas of things we could do, like this trip, that trip, living here. Like, we're kind of mover shakers, love adventure. We've been living in the Comox Valley for a few years and, working pretty steady. And so we were ready, like our feet were itchy and we wanted to do an adventure. And I think I put out a few different ideas for things we could do. And I didn't have one really hit until this rowing to Alaska came out, and Laura was like, yeah, I would be so down to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think a big part of the inspiration was it's a place that is just so beautiful, so teeming with wildlife, and just
on our back door as well. Yeah. And then we were like, how can you access all of this amazing, beautiful islands everywhere, but you can't really, unless you go on a BC ferry.
Yeah, like on a ferry or on a cruise, but to actually really get to see the area, you really kind of need to be on a boat. And the building of the boats, I think, was inspired. I was trying to convince Laura to come to the States so I could work as a travel nurse, but she wouldn't be able to work there. And so I was coming up with different ideas of things she could be doing.
And I'm a carpenter.
So that would be fulfilling and interesting. And so somehow a friend of ours built an Angus boat years ago. And so we knew they existed. And somehow I thought, oh my gosh, maybe you could build a rowboat. And then we came up with the Alaska thing. And I was like, you could be building these rowboats for this trip. And
you could be working in the States.
Yeah, in the end, we didn't go to the States, and we built them in our garage in Canada, but it kind of came from there somehow.
Yeah, like, let's build some boats and go to Alaska. That sounds like a great idea. Like, she has a lot of ideas where I'm just like, are you sure? Like, I'm just like, and I question all of the things, and then things come to fruition, and then suddenly there's a boat kit, and we both have two boats, and we just started building them, and it was so fun. It was so
It was pretty impulsive when I bought the first one.
Yeah.
And then once the first one was ordered, it was kind of like, oh, yes, we need two.
Better make two. Yeah.
And we opted for rowing because Laura hasn't really sea kayak, doesn't have as much ocean experience, but she just always loved the motion of rowing and the full body workout of it. And she was like, I don't want to just do upper body. I want to, and so we were like, okay, we'll row.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. And the name Rookie Rowers, like, that just lends or makes me think that this is, you're more of like novice paddlers, or this is something that's newer to you in the sense. Either is that because of like an expedition of this magnitude is new, or just paddling in general?
Yeah, neither of us were really rowers, other than, at a concept, at the gym on a machine, which we didn't do a lot of that even before the trip.
Yeah, Ashlie always downplays herself, and she basically has been working for a company called Knowles. I don't know,
Sure.
Yeah, okay, great. So she's done a ton of expeditions on water, on glaciers, on all of the things. So she's got a lot of experience, but I have zero. So when we started this trip, I was like, are you sure that I can do this? And she's like, oh yeah, you got this. I was like, okay. And she has this like guide spirit or something. I just have to trust it. And I go, okay, all right, I got this. So yeah. So like she's got a lot of experience, but I have zero. But you're not a rower.
Yeah, not rowing, more of a sea kayaking background. But I was always in the role of kind of the second lead. Like I was never the course lead or the lead guide on any ocean expedition. So I also felt like a rookie being the one who knows the most and taking someone who I wouldn't be able to just defer to when it came to risk management decisions or things like that. And I rowed my boat once before we started the trip.
Just to make sure it floated.
Like the week before, I did one spin in Comox Lake and was like, I think it's good.
Good to go.
So like Laura had taken hers out a couple times, but it actually just took so long to actually build the boats and be working and moving out of our house. We rented our house out for a year and then Laura popped the question. So 2 weeks before we moved out of our house and we're supposed to start the trip, we got married.
Little side note there.
We didn't know we were getting married. So everything was so busy. And we were supposed to start May 1st. And we ended up starting May 21st. So we spent 3 weeks living in our friend's driveway as we were like putting the final layers of paint and stuff on the boat. So
it was a bit of a rush, Joe. It was a bit of a rush.
Well, classically, you know?
classic rush. But here we are, halfway through the journey, and the boats haven't sunk.
Yeah,
the solar still works.
Yeah,
like, and we're having a really good time.
Yeah,
it's all working out. Yeah, it's really working. Yeah.
So you get married and then you were sort of training, like the training was the journey itself, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, basically we didn't put any training in at all. We just
active folks generally.
Yeah, we do a lot of exercise, but not rowing. We hadn't done any rowing before we left.
Laura was very concerned that there wasn't any paddle specific training happening as part of it. But I was really focused on just like dehydrating our meals and making sure we had all the kit we needed and actually finishing the boats. And I just kept saying, hey, we just need to prioritize these things that are going to prevent us from leaving. Whereas I was like, we're going to get so much rowing training on the trip.
On the day.
Like I just was like, we'll just start slow. We'll do small days. We'll work our endurance up. And by now we're, turns out the thing that we needed to train the most was just our bottoms. Like the limiting factor is just our seat bones.
Yeah, seat bones.
In the rowing seat.
Yeah. And our hands.
Yeah.
And, those things. But whatever. Those are minor details, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, what about like mental strength? Because this, the Pacific Coast, like in things I've read about, the Canadian coastline and going up to Alaska, is that it's rugged and sort of inhospitable, and the weather is not always agreeable for travel and like human settlement and things. It just, that's in my mind is like that it's a very rugged and even dangerous place. So where does like the mental training part of that come in, or mental toughness, that type of thing?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Do you want to answer that?
I think a few. Yeah, I've been consistently impressed by Laura's mental toughness on this trip.
Well, thank you.
Especially coming from someone who has less of a background. Like I think there's been so many opportunities on this trip for her to like freak out just because it was like windy, wavy, so remote.
The currents when they hit and the wind the other direction, and I call it riding the bull.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got like waves coming in everywhere and you're just like, okay, just hold on tight and everything's gonna be fine. And like, I put a lot of trust in her, and we have a lot, we do a lot of research.
Yeah.
Like we have like the Windy app, we have we study the book like it's like the Bible almost. Like it's just like, and every day we go out, we know where every campsite is, so where we can get off when we know that it's going to be a good day, and it's it's where the currents are coming in, like where to avoid. And we honestly we do it, and we honestly, Joe, we get up at like 2:30 in the morning. It's ridiculous. So and then we're on the water by like 4:30 when the sun's coming up. and then there's no wind whatsoever, we just plan around the wind. The wind dictates everything, and we just try and stay safe. We've been caught out for sure, and it's been scary for me. But I look over at Ashlie, and she's always got a big smile on her face, and she has this trust face, and I'm like, okay, I trust you. Okay, I'll follow you into the fire. Like, let's go. Like,
yeah. So many times Laura's looked over and said, "Is this okay? Is this what happened? Is this what it's right?
Yeah. Is this okay?
Not like, having the gauge of like, is this, and some folks I think just panic way lower. Whereas like she's just like, is this normal waves for people to be in? I'm like, it's normal. It's normal. She's like, okay. But we've tried to just be really strategic about when we're out, like listening to the VHF for the wind, using the windy app, using the like Navionics for the currents, and just like setting ourselves up for success in that way. If it's going to be a super windy day, like we're not on a timeline of when we have to get there, and that's just given us lots of room to just be like, you know what, conditions aren't ideal. Let's stay in camp, repair some stuff, eat some good food,
hunker down,
and then go when it's in our best interest, which has been awesome.
Okay. A lot of times with an expedition like this, like when people do a circumnavigate Lake Superior, or they ride their bike around Lake Superior or something, a lot of times it gets attached to a cause, or like help me raise money for this, sort of thing. And I'm not picking that up. I haven't seen that from you all. Is that a thing, or why or why not?
It would be awesome if
we should have, Joe. We should have.
Well, it would be awesome, but I think for us, we weren't even gonna have we weren't even really gonna post anything really. I think,
and tell anybody that we were really doing it, but then everyone was kind of excited and wanted to know what we were up to, and
it was kind of just like something we wanted to do for fun for ourselves as a challenge. And I think often when you are like having sponsors or donations or having that, it adds a whole other aspect to your expedition that for us, we already were like, we don't have enough time to plan this trip.
But also we wanted to be in the moment too. We want to be in the moment. Like, if a whale is breaching in front of us and opening its mouth and just eating krill in front of us, we're like, cool. I don't want to be like, hey, like, this is us with the thing. Like, and we was just like, I don't know, but for sponsorship, we should have done something.
Yeah.
We should have done something for the good, but I think,
Can I just say something about that I find it very refreshing that you aren't doing this for any cause, and that you're doing this just because you wanted to. And I mean, I'm usually grateful when somebody's walking around Lake Superior or whatever, and like, I'm walking for clean water, or I'm paddling for, whatever it is to save the fish or whatever. But it's really cool and refreshing to find someone who is just doing it to do it. And you didn't, I really think that is a great part of your expedition, and why I'm even more interested about it. So that's just my own personal sort of observation. For whatever that's worth. But let's talk about like the trip itself, some of the things that you've experienced, which are just mind blowing. When I see like the octopus or squid that you saw recently and shared some footage of that, I've probably replay on that like 10 times, like looking at the tentacles and just like, whoa. So that was a big thing for me. And you're about like 875 kilometers in, about halfway, you said 500 miles. So let's just kind of go through some of those highlights. And if we could start with that creature that you saw on the coast and how you came upon that thing, and tell me about that.
Oh man, it was so random. It was at the end of a long day.
Really long day.
We were just turning into camp. We were both pretty tuckered out. Like, we turned the corner to the cove, and
I think I was hangry, Joe. I was hangry. I was like, I need some food. Now she's like, what is that? And I was just like, oh, we don't have time for this. Like, I was like, no, let's go get some food.
It just up on the rocks as we were passing by the shore, and it just caught the corner of my eye. And at first I thought it was a starfish,
a big one,
a sea star, I guess. And so it kind of caught my eye, and then it was so big. And then I thought, I kind of was like, I stopped my rowboat. I thought, I saw something. It might be an octopus. And I didn't know. It was like we were just trying to get to camp
Yeah.
and just like set up. It looked like it was going to rain, but we both pulled up and just went on the beach and went and looked at it.
It honestly looked like an eagle had come down and grabbed it from its head, pulled it up, somehow pecked its head off. But it looked so fresh, and it was just like lying there, like completely like beautiful in its
in its natural the tide. Like everything was fine on it, but it was missing its head. But it looked so fresh. Yeah. It was so cool.
And we contemplated eating, but we were like,
I know.
Yeah, I heard that.
We might see that tomorrow. Like we're not gonna try and do that. We didn't know how long it had been there for, but they're amazing. Like
so cool to see.
So cool.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
like everything, the nature has been phenomenal. Like when we were going
sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry, Joe.
Sorry, Joe.
Alarm go off.
No problem.
Going through Fitzhugh Sound, were just whales everywhere, like whales and orcas and pods. Like we had to change our like trajectory in the ocean because there were so many whales, and they were just like
humpback.
They were just like popping up everywhere. Like you just be like, like you're just like, okay, keep rowing.
The wildlife has been stunning.
Yeah,
like
stunning.
In the water, out of the water, just sitting at camp, just the ground. It's
colors.
Just teeming with life everywhere. That has been such a huge highlight. Anywhere you look, there's animals. Just
everything's moving.
Yeah, that's been so cool.
Everything's alive. The forest is alive. The trees are beautiful. Like everything. Like you get to some places and you think, I sit there sometimes and just like just sit and smell and listen. I'm like, oh my God, how many people have actually been here? And you just think there's not many people that have been here. Like how lucky we are to be in such a raw environment. Like it's so beautiful. Like and it makes you. I looked at Ashlie and she was just like had big tears in her eyes. When no one's cried on this trip, by the way, because we're tough. But like
we're just waiting for when it's gonna happen.
But like just from the beauty of it, it's emotional. It's amazing. It's amazing. Just see that octopus was so cool. That was so cool.
And you are sometimes harvesting food. Like I've seen some crab. It looks like that you've caught and boiled or grilled or something. Like, did you actually find that, or was that like you bought it in a market or something? Or
no, that was just on the beach. We arrived at low tide. And you could just hand harvest these rock crabs on the beach. Well, one was right to where we stopped. So immediately we thought, oh my gosh, that's a male rock crab. We could eat that. So we tossed it in our pot and then unloaded all our stuff and then went on a hunt to see if we could find some other ones. Found another one. But things like bivalves are always a little bit unsure, and like some of the areas we've been in, they're not actually even testing for like the paralytic shellfish poisoning. So we haven't really been eating any clams or mussels or oysters, even though they're so plentiful and we would love to be. A lot of snails because they're easy to harvest and not a concern. And limpets are amazing. One sea cucumber, which was good, but also a small amount of meat and
a bit sad.
They just look so helpless, and you can just pick them up so easily. They have no defense, and then it's like such a small amount of meat. That's been really cool to interact with the environment in that way.
For sure. Yeah. And how about this notion of fishing versus flirting that came up at some point on the journey?
You really have looked at all of our things. You really have seen the whole website. That's so funny.
I'm following the journey, like that's it's nice to do.
That was really funny. That was such a funny thing because like we hadn't talked to anybody for 10 days, literally 10 days, and this fishing boat came over to us with two nice old guys on it that are just out for a weekend or whatever. And they came over like, what you girls up to? Because it was a bit hairy, the crossing that we had just done. So I didn't know if they were coming over to say, hey, you guys all right? And they came over and we're like, she's like, well, we're just rowing. And she's like, what are you guys up to? Are you fishing? Like that. And I'm like, we're heading to Alaska. And I think then straight away he was just like, oh, I feel sorry for you two girls. And then he was just like, do you need some fish? And we were like, yes, please. And then, and he just like literally, I think, I don't know how hungry he thought we were,
and we
but
thought,
he like,
sure, like we'd take some fish.
Sure,
you know?
like,
And
we
we
were
thought
like,
they were just going to give us a fish, but then they said, oh, just keep rowing and we'll
catch
prep
you
it.
up.
We'll prep it for you and catch you up. So they actually like gutted the fish and sliced it all up and everything and put it in that Ziploc bag.
Oh, it's delicious.
Oh my gosh, we ate salmon all that night, all the next day because you couldn't refrigerate it. So we were just like, that's all we're eating now.
And Joe, to be honest, our flirting skills are probably better than our fishing skills. So like it worked out.
I was going to say the opposite. I don't know what is more effective, flirting or fishing, because every time we've dropped a hook in, now we've got a fish. Like I think,
cool.
And we're not like hardcore fisher people. Like it's just a little hand line off the boat, and like less than 10 minutes, we've had a fish.
Okay.
So
the fish slayer.
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
for a salmon, flirting is the way to go.
Yeah.
For a rockfish, fishing is the way to go.
Right on. Cool. So you're halfway there, as we've said now, and I'm wondering if the fact you don't have sponsors or like this mission or people depending on you to finish because you said you would, if that's a reason why it hasn't been like this emotionally, not necessarily that it isn't trying for you emotionally, but that isn't an extra weight on your shoulders, that you are free of that burden of must finish the mission because we told these people we would. Like you seem pretty free, like you're actually just enjoying things.
Yeah,
and that's so cool.
There's no kind of like expectation that we have certain deliverables or that we weren't like, we're going to do this trip in this many days or anything, which I feel like has made it really low stress. Like I think our biggest kind of deadline is that someone is watching our dogs.
We have to get back for our dogs.
And originally when we left, I thought, mid-July we'll be done. But really we had so little time to actually prep the route before we left that we were like, it's going to take us somewhere between 60 and like 100 days.
Like, we don't know.
So we didn't really know. And now looking at the numbers, it seems like we're probably going to finish like between, after August 20th, like maybe around the 24th or so, another 50 days. Isn't really what we told our dog sitter, but they seem pretty open, so it's good. So we are thinking, okay, we do have these dogs that are waiting on us.
Yeah. But we're glad we don't have a timeline, because honestly, most of the bad decisions that people make is because they're on a timeline. Yeah. And we had some good time to there was some a bit of a dangerous area called Cape Caution. I don't know if you know it, but that has to be navigated on really good days. And we spent 3 days waiting just to go around Cape Caution to make sure that we didn't get ourselves into trouble. We nailed it. And the race to Alaska was happening. So there was all of these racers going by us in these sailboats.
Wow.
The crazy conditions.
And we did it on a flat pancake day where the swell was kind of big. It was still big, but not scary. And the camera crew came over and gave us a coffee on the water at Cape Caution. He's like, do you guys want anything? And we were like, what do you got? They were like, want a coffee? We're like, okay. So they're pouring us coffee in
a giant carafe.
And we're like, we're in Cape Caution. We're like, we need to get out of here. But let's take a coffee. Yeah, great idea.
Laura's like, shouldn't we be moving?
I
was like, free hot coffee and real cream.
Real cream.
Pump the brakes.
Yeah. So we've definitely we're not on a timeline, so it's great because we've had time just to go, okay, that looks dangerous. Windy app says don't go. We're not going to go. So that's cool. So we haven't put ourselves in massive danger, I don't think.
And I'd
so
say, honestly, Joe, what we've started talking about now is just as we've kind of gotten to the halfway point, it feels like the end is so close.
So sad already.
Even though we're not
halfway.
We still have a long way to go, but it's starting to feel like, okay, we're getting close to finishing. And we've almost wanted to start dragging our feet because it has been so fun. Just so being out here and being so connected to nature and having your decisions be so connected to the tides and the currents and what's you just are so immersed in what's actually happening around
you. It's really
pretty.
It's beautiful out here. Yeah.
So we have been oh man, we don't want the trip to end.
But
yeah,
everything comes to an end.
and
Everything comes to an end, and then you just have another adventure.
Yeah.
But like, yeah,
But
this is
really,
life changing. It's a life changing thing for me.
So
for
we're just
sure.
really trying to just like enjoy all the days that we have out here, and I feel like that's kept our spirits up when we are just like
Really
tired and the
really
conditions
tired.
are tricky, and our butts really hurt, and we've got
Things
lots of
heavy.
kilometers to go, or things are heavy. We just like think, oh my gosh, like
we're
in
so
no
lucky
time
to be
we're
here.
gonna be wishing we were here, and so many folks would love to be where we are right now. So that has really kept our spirits up, even when it's been harder. But.
Okay. Wow. All right. And so 50 days maybe to go approximately, and then what happens at that point? You get flown or take a watercraft, a boat back or something, a ship?
Good question. There's a few options. Like you can take a ferry down, but it would have been a bit tricky for us with the ferry. So my aunt Kathy actually said, hey,
what a legend.
Why don't I take your van to Alaska? She's been dreaming about going to Alaska her whole life. She lives in Ocala, Florida. She said, can I drive your van up? I'll do
with our trailer for our boats.
Yeah, with a little 16-foot trailer for our boats. So she has the van now. She's already in Alaska.
She's in Whitehorse
because she
right
thought
now,
we were going to be done way sooner. So she is now like doing her own trip. Her partners met her there. They're touring around, and then depending on when she has to leave, she's going to leave the van and the trailer in Whitehorse with a friend, and so we'll connect with it.
It all worked out.
Back down.
It was like we were like, wow, this is already working out. But, you know, it just like. People want an adventure too, so I guess
it's been awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And so you'll conclude the trip, you'll come back and just resume life, or what happened?
Good question. Yeah,
such a good question.
We rented our house for a year. So our plan was to basically explore living and working somewhere different than
in the
Cumberland.
north.
So either in the Yukon or in northern British Columbia. We have to go back to the island to grab our dogs. And do like a reshuffle of all of our stuff.
Get our skis.
Get our skis, ditch the boats.
Get ready for all of that.
Our plan was to just live in a remote community in northern BC or the Yukon.
Ashley's a nurse, so she can travel wherever and get nursing jobs, and I'm a carpenter, so it's kind of like we'll figure it out together. We have qualifications.
So even when like this portion of the trip ends, I feel like we won't be on the ocean, but we're still going to be on an adventure.
Okay. All right, fantastic. And so I'm here in Grand Marais, or just outside of Grand Marais, and I spent the day in the Boundary Waters, and we Paddle and Portage here. We talk a lot about the Boundary Waters, but also Quetico for sure. And we're covering paddling scene in Canada and Ontario. We're talking about like the Blood Vein River and Wabakimi and other places around Ontario. And I'm wondering your connections to that part of North America, if there are any. I think Ashlie, you lived in Thunder Bay, you're from there, you've spent time there, or just tell us your connections to like Lake Superior, Quetico, any of this scene.
I moved to Thunder Bay in 2010 to do a degree in outdoor rec from BC, and I absolutely fell in love with that area. Just being on Lake Superior, it's so big, the waters are so wild. It's such a magical place, and I just love living in Northern Ontario. Did a trip in Wabakimi, and that was the first time I ever canoe tripped.
Cool.
Such an iconic Canadian pastime that just is not a part of where I grew up. And lakes, and I went to Quetico in the wintertime and tree skied and stayed in the huts, and it was awesome. And haven't made it to the Boundary Waters, but spent some time in Quetico, but would love to spend more time canoe tripping out there. It's such a special place in the world.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're thinking one of our next adventures will be canoe tripping, and then we could take the dogs too.
Yeah. The dogs keep missing out, you know? So.
Okay, nice.
Hated this trip.
They would have hated it 100%.
Yeah,
they love canoeing. They would have hated this trip. Yeah.
Nice. Any other details that you want to share? Highlights or low points or anything that's happened along the journey that you want people to know about for one reason or another?
I have something. I have one thing. I think that this has proved to me that I was really nervous about this trip, doing something. Obviously go with someone that's experienced, like Ashlie, that's an amazing teacher and whatever. But like, honestly, you can do this. Anybody can do this. it's terrifying at the beginning, but first month in, you're learning so many things that you never knew that you would ever learn, and you're growing. I mean, I feel like I've grown massively since the start of this trip, from being scared of the first day of like when whitecaps were coming up and I was like, oh yeah, we're all gonna die, and like, but then like a month later I'm like, oh, this is fun, like this is fun, like, oh, bring it on, oh, we've got more wind, okay, cool. But I think it's, I don't know, I feel like I would never have done this ever if she hadn't talked me into doing it. And now I think that you just got to do it. You got to try. And if you try, then anybody can do this. But I mean, you know, it just takes time. And a little bit of effort. Building boats is a little bit difficult too, but like anybody can do it. So it's like, cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you.
I think similar. Like, I think just we kind of said we were going to do it. And then all of our friends were just like, that's crazy.
That's crazy. What are you doing?
Whatever. And then it wasn't until we were like,
oh,
trying to launch or about to launch, or like in that first week that we really, I think, realized how
big this was.
The trip really was. As we were just like, at the beginning of the trip, you're going through all of these narrow passages and there's rapids and you have to be timing slack and the wind, and we were just trying to navigate all these things with the information that we had. And I had some experience, but I wasn't a like professional sea kayaker really. And Laura was really new to the ocean, and so we went to bed a lot of nights thinking like
the panic, you know,
okay, like, you know, but we got this. And we just did it one step at a time. And
we always did it safely. We always did it safely though. And we always did.
Yeah, but it's just like, we just, you know, like, I think it's easy to get overwhelmed by something so big, and we just kept going back to, okay, let's just do like one step at a time.
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do in the morning? What are we going to do in the afternoon? And
what if this happens?
And just,
what if that?
Yeah, and then we just slowly ticked away, and then all of a sudden a week went by, and 2 weeks went by, and then we thought, oh my gosh, we've been doing this for a month, and we're doing okay.
We're on it. Yeah, we're doing it.
So that was really incredible, because I think at the beginning I had a lot of stress, being just like, oh my god,
you're the lead.
This is so much bigger than I even thought, and I've been planning the trip. So that's been really cool. And I think the other thing on this trip that's been awesome is we brought lots of food. Like, we, instead of shipping food or planning to buy stuff, we left with a lot of food. And so we haven't had any food stress. Yeah. So it's been easy to be like, okay, the weather's bad, let's just wait. Like, we've never thought, okay, we're going to run out of food, so now we have to move in adverse conditions. If anything, we've had too much food. And our worry, we've just been carrying it a lot. But we're just saying it's adding to the fitness.
So, and you have ample room in the boats then for food and sleeping gear and all of that.
And these boats are incredible. Like, to the Anguses, I just shout out to them.
Colin Angus and his wife Julia, they're amazing. They're amazing people with like so much so much experience and just wonderful. Like, when anything's happened, we just email them, hey, what do you think about this? And then like whole email straight away. Hey, what do you need? You need it sent to this post office. Yes, please. And
we emailed Colin so many times, and he's like personally responded and helped us so much. And and the boats are like
amazing,
really stable. So I think they have given us confidence in bigger conditions, because they just want, like, you just feel stable in them, and you can bring so much stuff. So
Very one big wave into the cockpit, and that's it. And that's because I went sideways into a wave. But that's it's all good. But yeah, we're alive and we're good. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, I mean, it would be really fantastic to connect with you, you know, at the end of your journey. And you know, in a perfect world, it'd be so great to meet you in person, to sit down and have a discussion. But at the very least, I'd really love to hear from you again. And this is really wonderful to speak with you both now that I think that a lot of people do, that we're part of the journey too, even though we're just living vicariously through it in your post. But there's such genuine updates too, and that they're not just like so rapid fire everything that's going on. But when you share something and it has a little bit of humor or some
you gotta laugh, Joe. You gotta laugh. Every day we laugh so hard all the time.
So it'd be great to talk with you, you know, in August sometime or September when you're back and settled, whenever the time is appropriate to do that. It'd be really cool to have a conclusion to part 2 of your journey.
Oh, we
Say,
would
We'd
love
love
to.
to.
Yeah, we
We'd
would
love
love
to.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you. Thanks for showing an interest. Like,
Yeah.
you
For
know.
sure. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, we'll share some links so people can follow it. And it's the rookie rowers, Laura and Ashlie. They're about halfway through this journey now on July 10th, and enjoy the rest of it a day at a time, a moment at a time. And thanks so much.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks so
Joe.
much, Joe.